Good to see you again. Yesterday we talked about the Americas during the time of Rome. Today we're going to look at Asia.
I never meant to be so bad to you.
What's that? We're not talking about Asia, the rock supergroup of the 1980s? Oh. Well, okay, I guess we'll talk about Asia during the time of Rome. Asia, the continent, that is, right? So, we're not going to talk about China. Why not China? Well, China is a lesson unto itself, and that would take far more time than I have for in this lesson. So today we'll start with the area of what is modern-day India. There are a number of cultures in India before the era of Rome. We're going to start today with the Maurya culture of India. It started in 332 BCE under the leadership of Chandragupta Maurya. By the end of the 3rd century BCE, almost all of northern India was under Mauryan control. It was under Chandragupta's grandson, Ashoka, who brought the largest expansion of the empire, ruling it at the height of its power. Ashoka is known as Ashoka the Great. Hey, wasn't that Odo's name? Anyway, Ashoka was known for violently expanding the size of the Mauryan Empire, resulting in the death of over 10,000 people in the city-state of Kalinga as he conquered them. Records show that he was so distraught over all the death and destruction he caused during that conquering that he turned to the teachings of Buddha. Buddha's teachings encouraged peace, pacifism, and tolerance. He then promoted Buddhism as a religion, going so far as to sponsor and pay for the construction of a number of temples and monasteries. It was during the same time period that India and Rome first started to open up trade relations between the two regions. Due to Ashoka's financial support of Buddhism, the treasury was drained, and on his death, the empire started to decline. After his death, the Mauryan Empire sponsored a number of smaller kingdoms and empires. The next significant empire to rise in the Indian subcontinent was the Gupta. The Gupta Empire would form during the age of decline and eventually the fall of Rome. The Gupta Empire existed from 320 to 550 CE. Sri Gupta, Sri means Lord, is believed to have been the founder of the Gupta Empire. He was a member of the merchant class. This was a direct contradiction of the caste system of India. No, not that kind of caste. We'll talk more about the caste system tomorrow in class. It was under the rule of the Guptas that India flourished, a period often referred to as the Golden Age of India by historians. During this time, Indian culture reached its apex. Architecture, art, astronomy, engineering, literature, mathematics, philosophy, and science all flourished in this time period. The Gupta rulers were not devout Hindus, though, and as such, Buddhism spread and flourished and grew heavily during this time period. It was also during this time period that the mathematical concept of zero was recognized. The Gupta Empire would fall in the 6th century, turning once again into a collection of smaller kingdoms. Now, let's move on from India over to Japan. Japan, during the era of Rome, was far less advanced than much of the rest of Asia. They were certainly less advanced than China. I said China. Then again in Asia, in this era, everyone was less advanced than China. There were two main periods of Japanese culture during the time of Rome, the Yayoi period and the Kofun period. The Yayoi period started at the same time as Rome and lasted into the 3rd century CE. It was during this period that rice farming, ironworking, bronze making, and weaving were first introduced from mainland Asia. The people of Japan at that time were organized into tribes and lived in small to medium-sized villages, paying tribute not only to more powerful tribes, but also to the Han Emperor in that country I'm not going to talk about today. It was during the Kofun period that Japan started to shift into a more familiar form. The nation divided into powerful regional states, each vying for more territory and power. It was during this era that a more official relationship was established with leaders of Imperial China. There I go again. And Japan was known to them as Wa. They also had a strong relationship with the three kingdoms of Korea. We'll come back to Japan in a later lesson to see how they developed from this point. In the area that is known as modern-day Korea, and into the area north of that, existed what was known as the Three Kingdoms of Korea. They were Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla. These kingdoms existed from the middle of the 1st century CE until the late 7th century CE. They shared a common culture and language. While they originally followed shamans in their teachings, they were then influenced strongly by Confucian and Taoist teachings, and Buddhism became the official religion in the 4th century. The three kingdoms would fall in the 7th century as outside alliances led to a change in the power balance between the three of them. The end result was a more unified Korea. We'll see how Korea evolves in a later lesson. Turning now to Southeast Asia, archaeological evidence tells us that humans have been in this part of the world for more than 50,000 years. The people who were there early relied on a combination of hunter-gatherer and agriculture to survive. It was during this period that both chickens and pigs were domesticated and spread throughout the region. The wealthy in this region would throw lavish parties, during which they would give away large amounts of food to all who attended. As the population in the areas grew, simple hunter-gatherer efforts to produce food weren't enough, and there was a need to move to a more consistent system. As such, these areas transformed into societies relying on agriculture to produce enough food to feed all those involved. Along with the earlier mentioned chickens and pigs, two other dominant crops in the region were yams and rice. Evidence shows that rice has been cultivated by mankind for thousands of years. Rice is a very labor-intensive crop that requires large amounts of labor to produce the food. Farming in these cultures was often the work of women, while men would work on building large structures to either hold animals out or contain them, or continue to hunt. We see signs of early metalworking in Southeast Asia in roughly 2,500 BCE. By 500 BCE, skilled ironworking was seen across the region, with people of the Dong Song culture in what is today Vietnam showing some of the greatest skill for that time period. In what today is modern-day Vietnam, during the era of Rome, the kingdom of Funan flourished. They existed between the area of the 1st and 6th century CE. Here's a picture of a Funan statue from the time period. This statue is of the Hindu god Vishnu. This is interesting in that it shows the spread of Hinduism across Asia. The Funan kingdom not only ruled the area, but sent diplomats to other countries and had embassies in the Chinese royal court. I said I wouldn't talk about China. Okay, it's back to Rome then. The Romans had an elaborate trade network spanning Europe along the regions of Africa and Asia. The Romans also had maps of the Indian Ocean, what they called Mare Indicum. The city of Katagara was located in the Funan Empire. Katagara is believed to be derived from the Sanskrit language for either Kirti Nagara, which means renowned city, or Koti Nagara, which means strong city. It is believed by historians that Katagara was in the location of modern-day Saigon and served as the entrepot for the region. The Funan kingdom traded with other groups within Asia, along the African coast, and evidence has been found of Roman Empire-era artifacts inside Funan. The Funan were a dominant force in Southeast Asia during this time, well aside from the country that won't be named. In what is modern-day Thailand, the Malay civilizations made their home. During the era of Rome, they were largely under the supervision of the Funan civilization I just mentioned. They would really come into their own around 1000 CE and flourish. We'll come back to this part of Asia in a later lesson. Again, we've covered quite a large range of material, cultures, civilizations. Tomorrow in class, we'll look at the impacts of cultural diffusion along with the Indian caste system. So remember, be proud of who you are, and I'll see you in class.